Well, once again, it became necessary to think about moving. Dr. Carson had arrived. He added an education building to this site. Let me show you the interior of the church at Madison and Grace. I don't know how well you can see this, but standing out very strongly is the baptismal font, which is still in use in our sanctuary. At the center, right down at the center aisle, is a marble-top table, which I'm convinced is the table that's in the memorial corridor opposite the chapel. There are 4 chairs showing there, 2 of which I think are still in the session room. And the other 2 needing repair are probably somewhere that we could find them. There are a few other things here. I might just mention that the baptismal chalice and tray, the communion chalice and tray and the baptismal bowl all date back to the 1830s when they were given to the church and have been in use in all of these sites since then. Well, it became necessary to think about moving west again. And this was not an easy decision. There were about 250 members of Madison and Grace who did not want to move. A larger number did move, but in initial discussions, there was a fair number who said, we will move west, but we should not go beyond the boulevard. Well, we actually went considerably beyond the boulevard. And here in 1938 or 9 is a picture of the property on which this church now stands. It was a perfectly blank piece of land. Was used, we're told, as a landing strip for a light aircraft belonging to one of the members of the Laris family. I'm not sure how much of this we bought, because when the property was acquired, it had to be acquired by elders and other senior members of the church and presented to the church because the church really didn't have the money to buy the land. I think probably we had about the first half of it. Lock Lane Apartments later came along at the bottom end on Grove Avenue, and I remember well that we bought some of this additional property to do the children's playground and the lower part of the parking lot. In any event, let's look at what was put here on the land. This is the original building that was built in 1940. Take a look at that strange indention in the roof, and I'll come back in a minute and tell you what that's all about. The original sanctuary at this location was on the first floor of this building, beginning on the Lock Lane side and going about halfway back. And I hope we have a picture of that. Here are some shots from the inside of the original sanctuary in this location, which served for 10 years as our church. Notice the chairs are still there. I don't see the baptismal font, but I tell you it's there because I've had other pictures. And of course we know it's in the sanctuary now. Now, why the indention in the roof? When we were planning to do all this building before anything was done, this was the brochure that was prepared. And you notice that the church is on a north-south axis, backing into that building, which is why the indention was there. If we hadn't changed our minds and did it the way it was done, Suzanne and a few other people wouldn't have an office because that's where that indention is. In any event, because of World War II, we weren't able to do anything about building the sanctuary until it started in the late 1940s. And on April the 2nd, I think it was, 1950, the cornerstone was laid. This is a picture of the members of the church who were able to come and have their picture taken at the time. I've just been told one very prominent member of the church is not there because she was teaching Sunday school and she couldn't get out to have her picture taken. We often wondered why she wasn't there when her husband was. J. Johnson and Carolyn found this copy of this picture that his mother had. Like the one that's hanging in the office, which you may have seen, it had some discoloration. But experts were able to take everything out of it, and you have what looks like a perfect picture there, plus the names of the people who've been identified along the bottom, and unidentified indicating somebody that we don't know who they are. Looking around this room, I'm not sure there's anybody here that can help us very much, because that was 60 years ago. But take a look at it, and if you think you know who some of the unidentified people are, we need to know, because we want to do something about it. What finally was constructed is the church as we know it now. This was the interior of the sanctuary at the time of the opening of the church in 1940. As you will recall, we had a major renovation of the sanctuary much later. And of course, we had the major building of the parish center, in which we brought back a chapel to the building and added this room and everything along this area. And lastly, I call your attention to a plaque that is in the narthex, the entranceway from Carey Street, which lists all of the locations and then says something about Dr. Carson. That's where we were. Now let's hear about who led us through these almost 200 years. Jay Johnston.